evening from Yammy TV. Wishing you all well today. Sending loads of love to you as usual. Now, tonight's topic or subjects I've come up with tonight involves around three stories all in one for a change because we're talking old adages once again, like we did yesterday on these occasions during these crimes. We could say what goes around comes around, or what's good for the goose is good for the gander, but also a thief from a thief is not a crime, is in fact. Or we could just wipe out all three of those things and just say, is it sod's bloody law? Right, so let's take it back to 1986. I'd been with my son's mother at that time about 6 months, which was 5 months, which would have been probably one of the longest periods I'd ever had out. So we're talking July 1986. And instead of working with the local boys that I grew up with stealing, on this occasion, I'd joined forces with another supposedly professional burglar, because I am labelled as a professional burglar, even though you lot know I wasn't that good at it. So I joined forces with him, done a couple of moves with him, and got some good rewards, like by way of, finding nice jewellery, sadly, and lots of money. So I was thinking this guy was a good guy to work with, and quite lucky, because sometimes in that life you have that fantasy that working with different people brings you good luck, and some are just bad luck for you. These are the kind of things and visions that you create in your own head when you're living that life. Or maybe I'm just talking about me. But yep, a couple of good ones with him. Now one night, right, I'm at my house, my mum's and dad's, rest in peace both of you, living in Lisson Green Estate at Wingrave House, and my son's mother Yvonne was in the next bedroom with my sister Leslie, who had her boyfriend Ricky, who was one of my best friends and still is probably my best friend of them all, really, from that life, if you get what I mean. I fell asleep with the geezer sitting in the chair, this new man that I'm doing crime with, right? So I'm smoking weed them days, right? So I've fallen asleep. When I woke up, he wasn't there. So during those days, I just bought a ducat, which was a big round coin with a big frame around it. I had a big rope chain with a box chain around that, and want to show off. And we know about jewelry and posing and modelling off with it. So it came up to about there, and it was round like that and stood out like a sore thumb, right? So, and I had a box that I used to keep in one of the speaker boxes, like I bought a stereo with stolen money as well. And I used to hide the tom box, the jewellery, which we called them days, which is really a jewellery box, with all my bits and pieces, like bracelets, rings, watches, sadly, other people's things. But this coin and chain, I actually bought with my own money, stolen money, right? So in the when I woke up, I looked into the box like I always used to, like worshipping all that jewelry and material stuff, trying on the stuff and see what it looks like in the mirror, putting the rings on and doing this and doing that and waving the chain around like that. When I opened the box, the chain and the coin had gone. So first thought that came into my head was, where is it? And where's gone? And who has nicked it? So I've gone into my brother-in-law's bedroom and asked him, and he's saying, boy, I saw your friend leave. He left about such and such a time. I'm asking Yvonne, but he said, well, she's saying it must be him. It can only be him. He's the only one that's been here. So I am absolutely fuming, but I have not let this guy know, right? So remember, there's no mobile phones around these times. And I had a plan to meet him the next day anyway. So he comes down. I haven't told him that the coin and chain and that have gone missing. And at that time, not working with the local village, you got your old friends that you started doing crime with. Well, this geezer was recommended to me from another criminal from South London, right? So he was known as well, still known apparently. So I said to him that, yeah, come on this day, because we need to get a car, right? Because I couldn't drive. So my first ever car was a Lancia sports car, which was bought from round the geezer, round the corner, who we used to sell jewellery to, funny enough, right? So I paid £500 deposit, and I said to him, I will give him the other 500 quid by the evening if I go to work, which means stealing, sadly, and get the rest of the money by way of stealing, and then pay for the car in full. So I can't drive, but this geezer from South London, he can drive. So we're driving over Regent's Park. We're driving through Park Road, which is near the zoo and the big roundabout there, near the canal kind of thing. And it's big traffic, it's a hot day. And I mentioned to him, I said to him, you know that my pieces of my jewelry went missing last night. And he's on, yeah. He goes, nah. He goes, that's bad, man. I wonder who done that. He was playing that one with me. So I'm looking at him out the corner of my eye while he's driving. And I'm saying, right, I want to, before we could do anything, we're getting a pull by the police for some reason. Can't remember why. We wasn't driving fast or anything. So the car gets pulled and the police ask us to come out of the car, right? So remember, I haven't got no license. He hasn't got a license. I haven't got the documents yet to the car. So I can't produce anything, but I know that the car's not stolen, so I'm not worried about that. So, but they say you're under arrest. We don't know if you've stolen a car, whatever, rah. And they've brought us both to Paddington Green Police Station. So now, when we're at the desk, you know, when they empty your pockets, put all the things on the table. I was sitting on the bench like that, screaming now, right? Still screaming about the chain and the coin as well at that time. But what happened next, like, I'll never forget. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, right? So he's getting his pockets. But when it came to searching him, for some reason, he was making loads and loads of noise, like screaming, oh, hey, get off me. No. Yammy, are you witnessing this? Remember this, remember this? They're hurting me. And they're bending up his arms, right? We know now why he does want to be searched. Now, they physically manhandled him, went through his pockets, and lo and behold, the chain and the coin is there. So I sit on the bench and I stand up and I look at him and he looks at me and he says, I was bringing it back to put back, Yammy. I'm sorry, I was bringing it back to put back. So in actual fact, sorry, 1 second. I was bringing it back to put back. Like, that's going to really make the situation any better. Like you've stolen the thing and you're having second thoughts about keeping it. So you're saying basically you're waiting for a moment when we would get back to my house where you can put it somewhere and say, oh, look what I found. It was there behind the bed or something all the time. So now I'm looking at him and I'm going, you scumbag, you thing and this and that. So if the police are like getting in the middle, because I really want to swing a punch. This geezer's much bigger than me, by the way, as well. I was fuming, livid, right? But the one thing I didn't know is that he was at large. He was over the wall, over the side, which means that he was wanted for a crime of some kind. So he didn't want his real name to come out. So he's given his name. He's had to, right? Because they got to go around, search his addresses or whatever, and that kind of stuff. And he's ended up back in custody, but they've got the jewelry. So I'm screaming now. So I'm saying to the sergeant, so what, you might as well, you can let me go, because they checked out the car's all right, but they put it in the compound. So I'd have to go and get the geezer that sold the car to me to bring back, to go and get it back out for me, right? So then I'm saying, listen, you heard what was said. I want the coin and chain belongs to me. I've got a receipt for it and I want it back. He said, well, listen here, Samson, you are not having it back right now. If you could produce the receipts for the chain and coin, then you could more likely get it back. But at that moment, they don't know. I haven't got the receipt on me, so I know it's at home. But they're going to keep hold of it anyway, just in case it's proceeds from crime, right? So I leave the station fuming. So this is another thing that always it's like a warning, really, that just because you're doing crimes against innocent victims, you yourself can become a victim at the hands of criminals that you're doing crime with, and they're being sneaky and snidey with you. So you know what kind of game it is, really. So in the end, I think I got the coin back, but I couldn't get the chain. Now, the second occasion it happened to me, and this is sod's law again, this is why what goes around does bloody come around, right? I was in a hostel in 1988, so we're talking about 2 years later, after finishing another 3 or 4, came out, and I was in this place for about 6 weeks. But I didn't really want to stay there. I wasn't used to cooking for myself and things like that. So I basically used to stay out and come back now and again. But it was like managed by ex-prisoners or ex-criminals now. I think his name was Willie Shalito, to be honest, and it was meant to be resettling you into the community, helping you find work. 1 second, right? And he's oh right, so I'm coming and going. I got a couple of girlfriends during that time. By this time, I'm not with my son's mother. By that time, my lovely son is born, of course, because I remember I've told you about that when we was in Wandsworth. So I'm in this hostel, and there's 4 rooms, right? So they're from different parts of the country. One stays with his girlfriend in one place, but during this time, I'm a right flash. You know what? I've got about 5 chains I'm walking around with bracelets on, thinking I'm the bee's knees, basically. And these lot in the hostel are real, like, you know, probably better men than me because they're not involved in crime and they're getting by day to day on just pennies and all that. So sometime this night here, I didn't want to go somewhere. I had to go and meet a girl, and it was a different area, and I didn't really want to go down there wearing all my jewelry just in case I got robbed or something, or you know, she set me up or whatever. You know, the things that go through your mind during that life. Some of you can identify with you. Some of you will not get the knowledge of what I'm saying again about fate and karma again, and what goes around comes around. They're perfectly true, right? So on this night, I'm going out. I've got the box and I've got all the jewelry. Remember, I've got loads of jewelry now. So I would say I've got, say, during them days, this is about £10,000 worth of jewelry, which is a lot of money in the 80s, right? So I didn't want to wear it that night. So I left it in the room. But when I was leaving the bedroom, I locked my bedroom door, because then you have to go downstairs to the front door, come out. And I remember looking back and seeing this guy with his girlfriend who was living with him, like I've said just before. And I remember thinking, Yammy, you sure you're going to leave this jewelry in your room? You know, it just passed through my mind, and I thought, nah, but it's obvious. How's anyone going to go in there and nick it? I didn't think too things, but it passed through my mind. Stayed away, come back the next day, went into my room. No, as soon as I walked through the door, the manager called me and another resident and said, look, your room's been broken into by blah, blah, blah. He's run off to a different part of the country with his girlfriend, and we believe he's stolen all your stuff. So my stereo's gone missing. First place I looked for was all my jewelry. It was all gone. My heart was broken. I was nearly crying like a big baby. It was passing through my mind even then, thinking, well, you stole some of these things, and or whether you bought the things, or you know, you burgled people's houses to wear these flash things to look good on behalf at the expense of all them. It passed through my mind, but you know, I was hurt about losing it all, and even worse than that, I couldn't get him, could I? Because I don't really know who he is, and he's not a Londoner, and he's disappeared forever. So I'm absolutely livid. I said, nah, I'm not staying here. And I've stayed out. I've gone somewhere. I've gone back to the lady's house that I was visiting the night before, right? This is sod's law as well. Really mad how that life works. I ended up, right, going to her house and thinking, oh, I don't know, I can replace all that jewelry. I'll go out there again and I'll go and get it all again. And it's nothing, you know. At the end, I was hurting bad and feeling really reckless. And I went to graft over Camden, the back of not Regent's Park, but I think Primrose Hill, round the back of there, if you're not familiar with that kind of place and that kind of thing. And I've gone through a window, an unoccupied premises. Must have rang the doorbell, sadly, and, you know, climbed through the window. But while I was climbing through the window, the jeans tore to my trousers, and the thread got, you know, I could feel the rip going through it, and I've ended up rolling on into the thing, running about the house like a lunatic. I ended up getting nothing. I think because I had to come back out the window way, because I couldn't come back out the door. I put a video, you know, them days, in a bag, and just thought, you know what, put it on my back as something, you know, sadly. So I'm walking with the bag back to the ladies' premises, which was Mornington Crescent, I think, where the girls' hostel was. And while I was walking down there, the police were at the girls' hostel, because this was a hostel for girls, but they had individual flats. But hers was a bigger one, like she was at the moving on stage. So she was downstairs, so she had access to a kitchen while the others didn't. So they were there on another matter. So me with the bag thinking, what the police doing there? Put the bag down and turned around and started done really a hot one really and started to walk the other way. And I said, sir, hold on a minute. Started running, got caught. Ended up in court, ended up in Highbury Magistrates Court. They traced back the video to the premises up there, and I ended up in custody for it. All that again, all the fate and all the karma that goes with that life, again, once again, shows its side. So, but luckily, the first time in life that I ever got bail, because I had the man that I bought the Lancia car off, remember my first ever car, he stood as surety for me. Like I got, he wasn't there that day, but the solicitor speech the judge and said, look, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have no DNA or no fingerprints or nothing. And basically they had an alternative charge of handling to go with the burglary because they couldn't really prove the burglary. But I was thinking they're going to get DNA from the genes or whatever. But them days it was a bit slower, I think. So I came back. So I was in court. When they said, yeah, £1,000, £2,000 of sureties, I still had to go to jail. So I went to Pentonville, where I was in Browns, which was a civvy thing, like civvy thing uniform back then, where I was JR'd or something. They called it something anyway. So I was waiting for the bail, and someone was running around. I got a visit of a lady friend, and she was trying to sort it out, and she got the man to come to the police station or come to the courtroom to show that if he would be willing to make sure that I would appear at court, and if I didn't, he would have to pay it. That's what sureties mean for court. So, so I've got out after a week. I never forget the feeling. I was in the shower in Pentonville when my heart was beating. I was glad to be getting out and blah, 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 blah. But again, sod's law. Right. Number 3, grafting with 2 of my best mates from childhood, right? Crept through a window, sadly. One of the 3 of us found £1,000 in cash and must have put it down his pants, because these are the things that, imagine you've got to go grafting with your criminal peers, but you've got to watch them while you're searching somebody else's house to see if they're doing snidey ones and putting things down their pants and not letting on that what they've found. So some of them had history already for it. I don't really believe in doing that kind of thing because I think it brings the partnerships bad luck, or did in that life. So we've done a crime, and basically about 5 hours later, on an unrelated matter, I think my friend was driving a Rover SDI or something like that, right? So it's got pulled over, and known 3 burglars were brought to the police station. Again, at the desk, going through the pockets. You remember, we've done something, and I think we're sharing the spoils, and that's all there was. There wasn't nothing much, and that's about it. So we're in the car, and so when we've got tugged 5 hours later, like I said, an unrelated matter, we ended up in the police station because there was a gold ring or something like that where they needed to check out. Just normal routine stuff. I wasn't expecting to stay in the police station because I knew that we wasn't nicked doing anything when the searches were taking place. Imagine they've gone down one of my friend's pants and pulled out £1,000 cash. And all 3 of us just looked at each other. And I said to myself, oh no. So you got no argument, no excuses. You've had 5 hours to say that you know, where you got that £1,000 from, because you didn't have it, or you didn't tell us you had it before we went out to steal. So it's pretty obvious, if it's down your pants and you've got it concealed, that you've got it somewhere where you didn't want none of us to find it, basically. So another one who pulled a sneaky move, and it gets found out right in front of the police, and we're all looking at each other and we're just saying, nah. But you see what I mean? This is what that life is all around. So not just being the perpetrators of innocent people you're doing crimes to, also you yourself. You're working sometimes for nothing, because sometimes you could be putting yourself on offer while others are saying, no, we couldn't find nothing, or there was no money, but he's keeping all the rewards for himself, when if all of you get nicked, you're all going to go to prison for the same thing. But he wants to be greedy and keep it all to himself. But that's what the story is today. I'm afraid. I'm not afraid, but that's sod's law. That's the karma. That's what comes with that life. Look out for tomorrow. What was I going to be talking about? Trust new loves, strangers, and the past on some other things as well. Sending loads of love. Sending loads of love.